boom, haha. All right, so have you ever watched a show and some shit just really stuck with you? Like something from that show, the rest of your life, you'll never forget that shit. So yo, that shit was crazy or dumb or bad or great or odd, whatever it was, it stayed with you. And you went and you told people and you're like, hey, have you ever seen this show? And they say, no, I've never even heard of that. You're a fucking idiot. It's like, damn, well, let me tell you about it. And you break into it. Well, that's what this is for me. All right, so this is about a show called Yakitate Japan, and it's a little Japanese cartoon, and this is about 4 episodes. I think it's 49 through 52. Real quick summary on Yakitate Japan, if you don't know what it is. It's about Azuma Kazuma. He's a young man who wants to be a very good baker. He wants to make the best bread in Japan, because you see, every other nation has their own bread. English bread, German bread, French bread, Cuban bread. He says all these other places have their own bread, but Japan does not have their own bread. He wants to make a bread that is so famous in Japan that it's like what rice is for Japan. That's what he wants to do. And you know, because it's a Japanese cartoon, so there's all this. He has solar hands. Like his hands are really warm and they're great. That's great for making bread. He meets a fucking cast of characters. He gets a lot of best friends. Whenever he makes the bread, there's always a crowd and everybody's always going, oh shit, he's doing the bread thing, and oh fuck, you know, all that shit. The only really important character is his manager. His name's Matsushiro Ken. He's a huge jacked motherfucker with an afro, and he's awesome. It's a wacky ass show. Every time somebody eats some of this bread, okay, you ever seen, what's that new one, Food Wars? If you've seen Food Wars, it's like that, but less lewd. Because in Food Wars, it's like they're getting fucked whenever they eat the food. Over here, it's like they just see a bunch of wacky shit and they go into these crazy daydreams. So this is kind of deep into a show. He goes through a lot of shit, and right now, he's in the Monaco Cup, which is a bread tournament, and you make bread against another person, and then there's this clown. His name's Piero. Piero judges the bread. During one of the matches, a match that Azuma's not in, one of his friends is in, he eats the bread and it's so good, he gets stabbed in the back. And I can't fully explain why, but just know that he does. He gets stabbed in the back. We get Piero's background. He's a very famous clown, and he was abandoned at a circus when he was a baby. And he thought that if he became famous enough, his parents would come back to him. So he worked his ass off and became a great clown. But now he's on his deathbed because he got stabbed because he ate good bread, and he's about to bleed to death. And they said he has some of the rarest blood in the world, Bombay blood. The king, there's been a king here who's been watching over the tournament. He wears a lion's head on his head. He does have a regular head. He just wears a lion's head. When he hears that Piero has Bombay blood, he goes, oh shit, I have Bombay blood. Only one in like 100 million people have this blood. So he goes, oh, maybe this is my long lost son. So he goes over there, and Piero is the right age to be his long lost son too. So he's like, oh shit. So he goes to the hospital and starts giving his blood to Piero. Piero's dying on the table, on the operation table, and he's kind of in heaven. And another character has eaten some bread before, and it was so good he came to this place. So he's sitting there. It's like a cabaret. There's some girls and shit. They're talking to him, and then the king shows up. He's like, oh, the king, you're dying too? And he's like, yeah. And they're just talking, and eventually the king's like, hey man, I'm your dad. And Piero's like, oh shit, for real? He's like, yeah, but I'm giving you all my blood so that you'll live, and now I'm gonna die. So his dad goes off and dies, and then Piero, he survives. So now Piero everybody knows that his father was the king and he was the long lost son. He becomes the new king of Monaco. Azuma and the crew come up to him. They're like, yo, Piero, that's some fucked up shit that just happened to you. He goes, yeah, I really just want to be able to talk to my dad one more time, because we didn't even really get to talk too much when we were both dying in heaven together. And Azuma says that he can make a bread that can take Piero back to heaven, because he's done it before. But he can't make, he names all his breads, and he says, I won't make bread 44 this time. This time I'll make something new and more powerful that's going to take you to heaven. I'm going to use cannabis. And that's really not that important. And I watched the show when I was a kid, and I never even noticed he used cannabis. But yeah, that's just what he uses. Look at how detailed that newspaper is. That shit looks like a real ass newspaper in that motherfucker's hands. You could read that shit. So Azuma's group is talking. In his match, he's going to be up against a guy named Shadow. Shadow is a copycat. He can copy anybody's style of anything, but specifically for this, he's copying people's bread style makings. Baking making, and he can make really good bread. He is currently copying Kirasaki Yuichi, who is the best bread maker in the world. He's also super fucking evil and super fucking jacked. Shadow and Kirasaki are training shirtless and sweaty. You see, Kirasaki wants Azuma to lose for evil reasons. So Shadow, he wants to make the Gopan, which is the best bread in the world that only Kirasaki knows how to make. And when you eat it, you can see the universe. Yep, there's an evil organization that makes bread in this show about bread making, because of course there's gotta be. Azuma starts training to make really good bread to the day of the match. Shadow is saying to Piero that he's gonna make bread so good that he'll go into the universe and see his dead mother. Azuma is saying he'll make bread that's so good that Piero will go see his dead father in heaven. That's what's going down. The match starts, they both start working their asses off, and it's all, oh, all the characters in the crowd, oh shit, he's making bread with such technique. He must have truly mastered some shit. Instead of water, I'll use rice dream, and all that kind of, you know, Shadow says that he's mastered Kitasaki's technique 100%. Bunch of that shit until his bread is done. He made a bagel. Piero eats Shadow's bagel, and he starts to daydream. He's out in space, and he rides on a space train, then lands on a star. On that star is a bunch of his mama's faces, and they talk. And to everybody, he's just standing there doing nothing. But in his daydream, he's looking at this star, and there's 50,000 of his mother's faces on the star, and he talks to them all. When he comes back, he's super happy and explains why the bread is good, texture, flavor, all that bullshit. The crowd cheers. Azuma finishes up his bread. He makes a donut while the crowd explains donuts. And then, oh, but he's not done, because he bakes it and fries it, and then Piero's gonna eat it, but he goes, no, I'm gonna do a double bake. Oh shit, oh shit, oh no, a double bake here in this age, but it's never been done before. You know, all that shit. After it's done, Azuma takes it out and calls it bread number 61, tells Piero that he will go to heaven and meet his father. Piero, he bites into the donut, and when he opens his eyes, he's in the king's lap, and the king doesn't recognize him. What? And then his mama comes in, and she doesn't know who he is. Huh? It's the year 1982, but like right before he's born. They think he's a thief, and he just does some clown shit to make them forget about it, and he realizes that he's gone back in fucking time. He starts living in the palace, and they just really love him. He's a fucking awesome clown. His mama gives him a ring to hold on to. The king and the queen both come to like Piero, and they ask him to stay there. They can only hope that their child will be as great as him one day. He says he can't, and when they walk away, his arm starts doing a Back to the Future. Then his mom starts going into labor, and he tries to run into the hospital, but completely disappears and drops her on the floor. And then he's back in the real world after his fantasy, and he's crying that he couldn't save his mom. And then his mother and father tell him to stop crying and act more like the clown Piero, who they named him after. That's right, he went back in time for real and changed events for real, and now both his parents are for real alive. Piero announces that Azuma's the winner. Yeah, Shadow says that's bullshit, I sent you to space. Piero says, yeah, you sure did, but Azuma changed reality and sent me back in fucking time to keep my dead parents alive, you piece of shit. So he fucking wins. Nobody knows what he's talking about though, because they think his parents have been alive this whole time. Yep, Azuma wins. He doesn't shake the bad guy's hand. Piero's just sitting there like, wow, this is the craziest thing that's ever fucking happened to me. My parents are alive now. I can never thank Azuma enough. Yep, that shit. My whole life I've fucking thought about that, because every other time somebody's ate the bread and had an illusion in a fantasy, it was never real. It just kind of happened. But this motherfucker went back in time. The show's not even over. I think there's like 17 more episodes after that. Shit's only gonna get crazier. I mean, I watched the show when I was a kid, so I don't remember every single thing that happened, but I remember that, man. Fuck, I remember that. I'll never forget that. That motherfucker, his bread was so good. You go back in time travel bread. He did it. That other motherfucker make you hallucinate a little bit, like, oh, I saw the stars. And Azuma over there, like, yo, that's cute, dog, but I'm gonna make this motherfucker go back in time. So yeah, peace out. I love you. See you later.